What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. So today we're gonna be working on the 240 with Kaylee. We're gonna be stripping down the KA. I already started, but I figured I'd give you guys some tips and stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and strip down this motor to the bare block because we're gonna go ahead and rebuild this engine. I searched locally, but apparently nobody right now has an engine available, and I need this car to be running soon. So we're gonna go ahead and replace the crankshaft. As you guys seen in a previous video, we went ahead and tried to change out the rod bearings just to see if we could get a quick fix to get the car smogged, but that didn't work out like we thought it would. The crankshaft actually was a lot worse than we thought it was gonna be. So instead of machining, we went out and bought a new crankshaft, or a remanufactured crankshaft. So we're waiting for that to come in, but in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and strip down the block because we're gonna do a rebuild on it. So we're gonna go ahead and start. Here's the engine right here. I already took off the valve cover. As you guys can see, I have the exhaust manifold taken off. Stud was already broken, so it leads me to believe that this engine was already worked on. This thermostat was changed, so I don't know what has been done to this engine yet, but I do know that it has been touched. So I'm gonna go ahead and break down this engine, and hopefully it doesn't look too bad. But in the meantime, like I said, I got the valve cover off, the exhaust off, manifold off. I have the intake manifold off, which is down here. I know some people that they take it apart, like in half and everything. So to keep things simple, I went ahead and removed the intake manifold as a whole. You pretty much just remove the manifold bolts like this, take off these two water lines, including this vent line and this line right here, and then you remove the bracket, and you can pull the whole thing off as a whole without removing any vacuum lines, like I said. We do need to have the registration, so we do need to have the emissions parts or the smog parts installed on the engine, so that way we can get the car smogged. So we will be leaving those on for now. We might do a delete later, but in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and leave them on. At this point, I have the engine at top dead center, and the way to tell, or the way to figure that out, is to make sure that you have the cam lobes the opposite, facing outwards. As you guys can see, they're facing outwards. I stick a long extension inside cylinder 1. Stick a 27mm wrench on the crank. You just twist it, and as you guys can see, this will go down. You keep spinning it until it comes all the way back up, and then I turn the crank, and you want it to end up on the second notch from the left. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and spin the crank, and then I'm gonna show you guys. If you guys watch the extension, it's gonna go up and down, and then you want it to come to the very top, and right before it goes down, you're gonna make sure that your timing mark on your crankshaft lines up with the second to the left mark, so that way you can tell it's top dead center, but also by looking at the cam lobes here. So I just gotta do it a little bit more rotations, and I should get it to top dead center. Yeah. Alright, guys, so the engine is now at top dead center. I'm gonna take off the front timing cover right here. It's a bunch of these 12mm over here around the timing cover. One thing I noticed is that these things are not even that tight, which is not a great sign. Sign, yeah.
What is a sign?
Like this one here was just, it's just loose. Like it's just loose. So we're gonna take out the cover now. I'm just gonna go ahead and take extension and just kind of tap it. There you go. So before you take off the cams, you want to make sure you mark your bolts, because you want everything to go back exactly where you took them off. So I'm just gonna mark these bolts left and right. You can barely see it, but it's there. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and remove the tensioner. I'm gonna remove this chain guide. Now, a lot of times the top chain guide here, which I already removed, and this chain guide here, which is I'm removing right now, they tend to give you some chain slap or rattle, and they end up wearing down and falling down into the engine. So a lot of people, they just go ahead and remove this entirely so that it doesn't cause problems in the future. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove the sprockets on the camshafts. So in order to do that, you need to put a crescent wrench on the first lobe. If you guys can see, there's a little bit of a spot, so that way you can stick a crescent wrench on there, just like that. So you're gonna hold this while you hit the ratchet. So I'm gonna just hit it with an impact because I don't wanna be using up all my strengths.
Can we say it like that?
So keep these together. take off the sprockets. So next we're gonna go ahead and take off the camshafts. Normally I would go ahead and number them and put an arrow like where the front of the engine is. But if you can see that this is I with an arrow pointing to the front, I2, arrow pointing to the front, so on and so forth. The exhaust side has an E pointing to the front, E2 pointing to the front. So these are already stamped. I don't know if this was worked on before, but anyway, you just want to make sure you keep your caps in the same spot where they came out of, so that way everything goes back how they're supposed to. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove these cam caps. You want to work from the inside to the outside. So do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that. Now before you remove the cam, you want to make sure that you remember which side goes which. On this particular engine, so the yellow side is going to be your intake and your green is going to be your exhaust. To remove it, you just take the crescent wrench again, spin it loose, and it should be able to just come right off, just like that. Be careful with this, put it somewhere nice and safe. Then we'll go ahead and work on this one right here. Next we're going to take out the head bolts. The torque sequence to remove your head is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Something like that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and remove them. Be careful, you do not want to strip these. There goes a sight from my soul. After you get all 10 bolts loosened, go ahead and start removing them. Now you are supposed to replace these with new bolts every time you take them out. So with that being said, I will be replacing these with new hardware. Keep in mind now, when you take out the bolts, there are going to be washers. So if you can get them out, good. If you can't, you can leave them in there. Just make sure you remember that they're in there so you don't lose them or they don't fall into the engine if you're only taking off the head. So there should be 10 bolts in total that you need to remove. 10 bolts. Alright guys, so it's gonna be a 19 socket that it is gonna take this off. I'm just gonna use my impact. Alright. So, now that we got this off, before you pull it all the way off, you wanna make sure you can get a zip tie or something, just so the chain doesn't fall off, just like that. And now we should be able to take the head off the car, or off the engine. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the head. Move the head gasket, just like that. So this is the block right here. As you can see, the cylinders are at top dead center, or at the top. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the rest of the components that's on the block. We're gonna move the alternator, power steering, compressor. Everything's gonna come off the block. There's a lot of carbon buildup and stuff, so we'll probably switch those out. There's no coolant in here, so it looks like the head gasket was still good. The compression was still good. The only thing that was wrong with this engine was the fact that it had rod knock. So we're gonna go ahead and change out the crank. If you see this is a dowel right here. This centers the head onto your block, so make sure that you have these. You can take them out, but make sure you put them back where they came from. That way when you set the head up on the block, it centers it and it doesn't strip out any of your head bolts and stuff, because if it does, you're gonna have to take everything apart again and send it back to the machine shop. So we're gonna go ahead and take off all the stuff off the block so we can go ahead and flip it upside down and remove the oil pan so we can take the crank out. I'm gonna go ahead and start by removing all the bolts. Loosen up your tensioner. Remove the alternator bolt just like that. Tensioner there. Slide this up, pull this out. Then put a power steering pump. There you go, got all the belts off. Now we can start taking apart all the accessories on the block. Set this to the side. This bracket belongs to the alternator. All right, we're gonna go ahead and remove the power steering. I'm gonna try and remove just the bracket. I don't really want to take off the whole pump, so let's see if I can get in here. Before the compressor, you're gonna have to take off the compressor because the bolts for the bracket on the engine is behind the compressor. So the reason why we're taking this whole block apart is because we're gonna clean it all up. I wanna put a nice, like, fresh looking block back into the car. So we're gonna clean up all this gunk buildup over here. If you're just gonna do a rebuild, you don't need to remove all the compressor and all the accessories. You could just take off the internals, replace what you need to replace, and then put the block back together. But we're gonna clean it up a little bit, paint it, and make it look nice. So that way when we put it back in the car, it's gonna look fairly decent, all right? So now we're gonna go ahead and take off the water pump, I believe, or try to get this whole cover off as a one assembly. So we're gonna go ahead and take off the oil pan and all that. So here comes the real messy part. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and remove the oil pan. I'm gonna take off this crankshaft pulley. It's a 27 socket. In case you guys are wondering. So this is how I'm taking off the crank pulley. I'm just sticking my pry bar behind it. Ha ha ha, we don't need to buy a tool. All right, so now we got the crank pulley off. We can go ahead and take off this front cover. Ew. Now I think we can take the cover off. No! Alright, well the front cover is off. I'm gonna go take off this part. I'm gonna attempt to spin this motor upside down. I have a container down there that I'm letting the coolant drip into. Alright. No! Alright, it's alright. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start taking off the pistons or the connecting rods. Go. Alright guys, I'm gonna take off the cradle for the Alright guys, so I made a mistake and I left the dust shield for the trans on the back side of the engine. So if you guys can see, I have the block balancing on 2 jack stands and 1 bolt to kind of hold the block in place so I could take off the rear main seal. And now we can take off the crankshaft. There we go. Alright, now I'm gonna put the block back on top of the stand.
So that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The rebuild kit is coming in real soon, so as soon as we get it in, we're gonna start putting the engine back together and throwing it back inside the car. I hope you guys are enjoying these 240 videos, and if you guys are, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you guys haven't already. We really appreciate all the feedback and all the support you guys have been showing. If you guys haven't caught your stickers, make sure you do so down below in the description. I'll show you guys what we have in stock. So we have the new Diamonds on a Budget Garage oil slick stickers. They're off on the site, and it also comes in white. And we have the Style Forever. We have the Stay Good logo in white. We also have it in the oil slick and the OG Diamonds on a Budget stickers. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay good.